Have you ever thought the state just doesn't want me to sell my vehicle? Have you ever said the word out loud, impossible, when it comes to figuring something out like bonded titles, rebuilt titles, abandoned vehicles, mechanics liens, salvage titles, or just title work in general? Well, my guest this week turns title trouble into opportunity. If you buy and sell cars for a profit, or you want to, you're in the right place. This is the Flipping Genius Podcast. I am your host, Randy Lee. I've been flipping cars most of my life, despite having almost zero mechanical skill. For the past dozen years or so, I've been a licensed used car dealer in the great state of Alabama. No matter what the topic, the number one goal of this podcast is to help our listeners make more money. Let's get to it, flippers. Hey everybody, it's my honor today to have a guest that I think may be one of the most important guests we've ever had on Flipping Genius. As you know, I'm an old football coach, and I truly believe that some of the most boring, tedious stuff that we do on a football field is what wins the games. That's why Nick Saban wins all the time, because he's got a great offensive line coach, and they get the details down before the whistle is blown. And that's why it's so important to have somebody on your side that knows this business and can help you with that stuff that maybe you don't find that sexy. And it's important to have somebody like Serena Martin. She's the operations manager for Signature One Titles. She knows this business like nobody else knows it. And Serena, it is a delight to have you and an honor to have you. Genius.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Hey, can before we get started tonight, because I got a ton of questions, because there's so many things I want to learn about, and I know my audience wants to learn them too. Before we get started though, can you tell us a little about you and how long you've been in the business and how did you come to do this type of work?
Okay. More than happy to tell you. My name is Serena, of course, we talked about that already. And about going on 12 years ago now, I was working, and my job at the time was 6:45 to 2:45. I found myself in a position of needing an extra job. And since I got off work at 2:45 every day, it kind of opened up the possibilities. It was not in the car business. I was working at Children's Hospital, and every job that I have had prior to being in the car business has been in childcare in some form or fashion. I was either a nanny or a preschool teacher. I was working, actually, not a lot of people know that the Children's Hospital has a school that helps the children who are there longer term not get so behind. Mm-hmm. So I was working in that school. But I needed a second job. I did that job because it was my passion. It didn't necessarily pay the bills. Mm-hmm. I found an ad on Craigslist of a man who said that he had a small car lot, but he worked full time during the day. And then after work, he was overwhelmed with people calling and people who weren't serious, and then the paperwork was too much for him, and he just needed some extra support, and that it could be done on, the person's schedule, anytime that it was convenient, just work it around. So I thought, you know what, that might be perfect for me because it's flexible. So I contacted him. He ended up hiring me.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of a perfect.
Yeah. It was, and we actually we became business partners as the years went on, because I got into the business, realized that I loved it. Mm-hmm. But he never wanted to grow beyond what we were. Mm-hmm. So I found myself needing to grow myself. So I began taking on other people's title work.
Oh, okay.
I also became a buyer.
Right.
So I would go to auction and buy for different dealerships, different businesses that, needed someone like me out there. And I was a pretty tough one. Like, there was no, if they dropped the hammer at 5,000, and they were like, "Nah, we're trying to get 5,500." I would start walking. Like I was a tough buyer. And sometimes I, you know, lost the opportunity, and sometimes they acquiesced to my bid that the hammer was dropped on. So, but I began taking on this title work, and I also noticed in the beginning it was very difficult to get assistance from other dealers. Dealers just didn't seem to want to help other dealers, new dealers. And while I do understand that, because I know it's everybody's competing against each other. It's still, I thought, you know what, it'd be great if there was a, kind of a program or something where there are dealers who helped other dealers just in different ways. And of course we have the state association,
right?
And they're wonderful, but they can only do so much,
Right.
So over the years, the gentleman that I worked for, we became business partners, and to this day, actually, he's still as small as he was in the beginning, and we just do his title work. He does everything, but of course, we do his title work. So I now serve on the board for the State Dealers Association.
Right.
And I encourage everybody to be a part of their State Dealers Association. There are a lot of benefits to being associated with the association. So
yeah, that's what I tell the folks that the fact is, Randy Jones is our CEO in Alabama, and Randy's been on our podcast for 3 episodes, and he's so helpful. And it's an amazing thing how much stuff they give you for free, even if you're not a member.
Yeah.
So we have links to the association, the National Association, which links to every state association from our resources page, because listeners can get information if they're a member or not, and they can get information on becoming a licensed dealer, because a lot of our listeners are in the process of building a business that will eventually become a licensed dealer. And then we also have a lot of licensed dealers all over the country, and so it's exciting because I know there's some big changes coming. Now, do you still run a car dealership too?
We maintain our license, but the title part of what we do takes so much of our time that we're really not able to run a full service dealership.
Right.
We do have the facilities. We have a dealership. We have a repair shop. And we probably will get back into that with COVID, the way things that happened. And of course, the market, everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
The market being what it is, we don't currently have the time to invest what the dealership needs. So we have just the last year and a half been headlong in helping dealers stay afloat, making sure that they're getting the lien holders what they need so their deals can get funded, making sure their liens are perfected so that there's no blowback from the lien holders. So that's really been our focus, but we do plan to grow it again.
Yeah, I noticed on your website that the words "dealers helping dealers" was one of the headlines there. Beautiful website, by the way, and
thank you.
A lot of great information, really easily delivered, and we'll share that with you at the end of the episode, everybody, so you'll know exactly how to contact Serena and find out more about Signature One. There's a bunch of things that I want to get into, and we try to keep the podcast limited to a certain time. I know they'd probably like listening to you, but they've probably gotten sick of listening to me. So I'll try to just answer questions and get out of the way. One thing that you talked about on the phone with me was something, frankly, I don't, there's so many things I don't know about, and I don't try to pretend to know everything. But you mentioned bonded titles, which is not something that I've come up against, primarily because I will not sell a vehicle until I've got a title in my hand. I don't even consider it. But I've seen people doing it, and they bought a car at an auction, and they're selling it at another auction, and I thought to myself, how do they do that? And you answered my question the other day on the phone. Can you tell them a little bit more about bonded titles?
Sure. we'll go back a little bit. Sometimes it is obviously ideally, the ideal situation would be not to sell a car without the title coming in yet. However, everyone that buys cars at auctions knows that when you buy a car, they have 30 to 40, some auctions are 45 days. But if you're floor planning that vehicle, you can't really hold on to it for 30 or 45 days,
Right.
because it racks up interest and fees. And also, what if it needs some type of recon, mechanical, body work? It's very difficult to just sit on that vehicle and not do anything to it.
Exactly.
Until that title comes in. So unfortunately, you move ahead with faith that that title is coming in.
Right.
And you recon it, you go ahead and put money into it. You may even go ahead and retail it or wholesale it. Most of the time it's retail, and just in the faith that that title's going to show up. You can pull the title information to be able to do a title transfer. But what if the title never shows? If you didn't sell the car, you can't arbitrate it for the title. You can. If you've reconned it, you're going to lose the money that you put into it.
Exactly. And
yeah.
So how does the bonded title work?
Well, what happens is if that title never comes in, a bond is essentially an insurance policy.
Right.
So we apply for, first we have to apply for permission from the state to even get a bond. So we have to send them all the information that they require, and there's a, criteria that they require before approving the application for a bond. Once we receive that approval, we send it to our insurance agent that we have on staff that does all of our bonds. And she writes the bond, and once the bond is written, it is sent directly to us, and then we're able to do a regular Alabama title application, and you receive a title. Our process right now is running total between beginning about 7 days.
Wow.
To get a bonded title.
That's fantastic. And then that bond protects you, did you say for 3 years? Is that?
It is 3 years. And the cost of them vary. Just like if you were insuring any vehicle, it's based on the value of that vehicle because it's an insurance policy. If someone steps forward during that 3-year period with proof that somehow, that vehicle title was acquired wrongfully,
right,
and they can prove that, then the insurance company has to give them the value of that vehicle.
Right.
So, but however, I will say that I've never bonded a title that there was any question that all it was it was either lost. It was one time I got a title that every mileage had been scratched through, and it was just so messed up. There was no way we could have done correction affidavits for and it was full also. The back was full.
Wow.
So we just had to get a bond. But the difference in a bonded title and a branded title is that if you have a rebuilt salvage brand, whatever that brand is, it does not ever change. It doesn't go away.
Right.
A bond does. After 3 years, if somebody steps forward with proof, it's too late. That title is clean. It's free of any possibility that anybody could come back and try to make any kind of claim on it. So that's why a bond is not a terrible thing.
Right.
I wouldn't. If there's any question about the former ownership, I would be cautious. But if it was just about it being lost or, maybe FedEx, I've run into a situation where FedEx lost 8 or 10 titles. And they just needed to be replaced, and there was no way to replace them without getting that insurance policy to do that.
And then if it did come back, let's say 2 years from now, somebody comes up and says, "No, I own this vehicle," for whatever, the insurance company basically just buys that person out. Is that
correct?
Okay.
They pay them the value of the vehicle.
And naturally, because of the risk value, if it's more if you've got a 2020 Lexus than if you've got a 1994 Buick Century.
That is exactly right.
I sell mostly the Centuries myself, so
now let me make sure I understand. Like a 1994 can only be bonded for $10,000.
Right.
So the value of it cannot exceed the bond amount. Same with the Lexus.
Right.
So even if the value of the car was $72,000, the insurance company is only going to give you that bond amount.
Right. I forgot that you didn't probably know that I haven't had $72,000 worth of vehicles on my lot in all the time I've been in business.
I'm not sure I have. I'm sure we have, but probably not at once.
Now you mentioned salvage titles and rebuilt titles, so I want to talk about that a little bit. We have a car flipping forum on Facebook. Flipping Genius has got, I think we have 20 Facebook groups right now around the United States, including here in Huntsville. We've got 2 groups with close to 40,000 members. It's a buy and sell site, so people can buy and sell cars. And that was the first one we started. Now we've got groups from Phoenix, Arizona, up to Detroit, Michigan, Salt Lake City, down to Orlando. But there's one group that we call the Flipping Forum, that's what it is. It's a forum for people who are in the car business to go on and talk about what they're learning, what they want to learn, problems they're having, and it's just building. And we just are over, I think we're around 120 members right now, but it's very specific. And one of the questions I saw recently was about the salvage titles and rebuilt titles. One of the guys is buying for the first time from Copart. And this is a little issue. And actually, I've got a vehicle right now with a rebuilt title, and it's always an interesting. I have to have lots of discussions with people when I've got one of those, so they can understand what I'm dealing with. How difficult is it when you buy a salvage title to get it turned into a rebuilt title? And are those is that type of terminology, is that universal throughout all states?
Yes.
Okay.
Universally challenging, yes. It's not just Alabama. There are different laws in different states on how to go about doing that. Other states have, inspection stations for emissions and different things like that. Since Alabama doesn't have emissions laws, it's a little bit different. But the difference in salvage and rebuild is salvage is prior to it being inspected for road worthiness, and rebuild is after inspection, and it receives a little sticker in the door jamb.
Right.
How difficult it is in the beginning, it is difficult to get started doing those on a regular basis, just because you're not familiar with the process. Getting someone who is approved by the state to do the inspection, to get the all the paperwork done correctly. But once you do, several of them, and you get your process down, then it isn't, it's not as difficult, excuse me. Nothing is easy in this business.
Right.
Let me make that clear. But
is that something that you do at Signature One?
We can do it. However, it is sometimes it isn't. You mean getting it from a salvage to a rebuilt? We're not state approved inspectors, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Now we can apply for what you need applying for. Just doing the grunt work of it. Yes.
So the paperwork side.
Correct. But we can't get it. We can't approve it for you.
Right. Well,
and that Yeah, that may change. We actually don't know where we're headed. The state's going through a lot of different changes.
Right.
They've been really great to work with us. They're glad that we're here
Okay.
because we are kind of a buffer between the dealers and the state so that there's no, if you kind of hit us first, it kind of softens the blow on the state's side. So
that's a fascinating thought that they're glad that you're here. That's wonderful. That's
yeah. Well, we're not taking any revenue from them. You still pay your $15 for everything you do. So they're glad to have us here to kind of cushion the blow and to to kind of help other dealers, like you said, dealers helping dealers to just kind of clean up what we're all doing and maybe a little bit of a more streamlined process.
Well, that's
They're
fantastic.
glad that we're doing this.
Because I'm always hearing the grumbling, from dealers, and I understand it's going to get worse. So that's
yes,
that's really fantastic. Now once we've got the rebuilt title, is there anything is there anything that people need to know about that process that selling the vehicle with a rebuilt title? Well,
it always has to be disclosed. If it's not disclosed, that you'll end up buying that vehicle back.
Amen.
You will.
And I wanted to bring that up. I belong to several other forums on Facebook. As people that know me out there know, I'm a propagandist extraordinaire. And I interact with folks, and I saw somebody yesterday comment about that was exactly what they were saying. I would just say I didn't know about that, and I didn't have to jump on the guy because several other people did and said no, that's not how you handle it. But I'm glad you told anybody that thinks they can hide that not to.
Yeah.
I read somebody say they expected to sell a vehicle with a rebuilt title for about 70% of what. Does that sound about right to you? About what
it is right now? It's probably a little bit higher. The market is a little bit. Well, I say a little bit. It's a good bit different than normal. But yes, and you do have some lenders that will not let you borrow on a rebuilt title. But we have some really successful businesses in Birmingham that sell nothing but rebuilt title vehicles that they have gotten totally wrecked, and they have the facility to recon the whole thing, body work, mechanically, put it back together and sell you a nice car. And I've actually recommended rebuilt title cars before because I'd have someone contact me and say, look, I'm going to lose my job.
Right.
And if I don't get a reliable vehicle, however, I only have $3,000.
Right.
And since they don't really need the resale value of it, I would say, let's find you a good vehicle that has a rebuilt title. So I've actually worked with other dealers in the state to purchase those for different people who just needed something reliable, because it doesn't necessarily mean that mechanically they're not, in working order. All it means is just that their value is somewhere around the halfway mark of something that is not salvage or rebuild.
Right. Yeah, there's no doubt. And if that's real helpful, if you can actually get the history from the people that rebuild it, I can see how that's pretty successful. Yes. What about a flood vehicle? Is that take different consideration?
It does. It's very, very difficult to recon a vehicle that has actually been in a flood. Now, if it's one that was in a flood zone during a flood, but it was still required to be labeled as a flood vehicle, that's also different.
Right.
There are some people they're inclined to those kind of vehicles, but I remember after there was a huge couple of years ago or sometime, I'm sorry, I don't have my dates correct, but when all that happened in Texas,
right.
I told my business partner, I said, go ahead now and just pass on every car
Mhm.
if you pull it up and it's a Texas title,
Mhm.
because we just don't know, you know, what's coming out of there. We were not equipped to handle those types of vehicles. We didn't have we've never had like our own recon stations, our own, you know, if we have mechanic work or body work done, we have to contract that out to somebody, and it's not cheap.
Right.
So, but I would just encourage you to be extremely cautious about those things, unless your risk aversion is higher than mine.
Right. That's the whole thing. Anytime that you're buying, I'm constantly telling everybody, you make your money when you spend it. And I know that's I'm not the first one that said that. I may be the first one who said it as many times as I have, but and so that's the thing. If you're gonna take that risk, you've got to get a real reasonable price, because you could lose a lot, but you don't want to lose too much. Now we talked, and I continue to run into this thing, like at the auctions, like you said, the market's not where it's different. And one of the things about the market right now is auction prices are so high.
They are.
It's kind of a crazy thing. So a lot of us are looking at ways to buy vehicles from other sources, from the public is one way. Anybody that lives near me can't drive more than probably 150 yards without seeing a sign that says I buy cars. And you get gas, you'll probably see one of my stickers in front of you when you're pumping gas, because that's one of my primary ways. I've got friends who are being a little bit more creative. So I wanted to ask you about abandoned vehicles and mechanic lien vehicles. Is that something that you work with?
We do. We can do any of that. The abandoned process is a much more lengthy process than a mechanic's lien, because you do not have any type of contract with the owner.
Right.
In a mechanic's lien, you have something showing where, you know, like the customer turned in the vehicle for work and they've never picked it back up. Most of the time, abandoned, you don't have any kind of agreement with the last title, the owner of that vehicle. So it requires first that we put the information through a portal for Alabama that we actually subscribe to. So it's not a free process or a cheap process. And then we have to acquire certified letters that go to the titled owner, the registered owner, and the lien holder, if that's applicable. Sometimes it isn't. And then we have to post publicly that the vehicle is there and available. And then we also have to have an auction and have that car available for auction. We have to set days, times, and if people show up, then you have to, of course you can, you know, you don't have to sell the vehicle to them for, you know, $100. You can be reasonable. If you've put in, like a lot of times who calls us about abandoned vehicles is our mechanics.
Right.
And somebody just never picked their car up, but they have a $4,000 repair bill. Well, then the auction cannot, you know, of course you're not going to go below that because that's your cost. But 35 days has to pass. I won't go into all the details, but during that 35 days is when we are doing all of those things, posting publicly, having an auction, sending out the certified letters. After 35 days have passed, then we can get a bill of sale from the state's website in order to turn around and then get back in the state's website and apply for a title transfer from that bill of sale.
Oh, that sounds expensive. What does all that cost?
It's $300 unless you are a regularly processing customer of ours, and then it's $150.
I saw it on your website, $300, and so you do all those things that you just said for $300?
Unless you are our regularly processing customer, and it's only $150.
And you do it less, but I mean, still $300 is that seems like a lot of work for $300, but that's
Well, we have it like our team is just so sharp,
right.
and we each have things that we're stronger at than others. So where we are strongest, they do those parts, and then someone else where they're strong, they do those parts. So the process is kind of so that way it doesn't make one person feel like they have the entire load on their shoulders. So that's how we get that done. But yeah, I mean, it's not easy.
No, but that's fantastic. It's funny. I'm big on team building and believe that there's certain things that I do well, and they're very limited, and that's what I try to focus on. And I try to get help in other areas because I know I tell people, if you see me, well, actually my friends will tell you, if you see Randy under the hood of a car, you probably just run him over, because that's not what I do. So if I try to do my mechanic's job, I'll just go out of business. And this is a good example, $300 that Serena charges for this service, and I can just see all of us messing that up completely and wasting all kinds.
And probably the hardest part of that is when someone calls us after they've tried to do it on their own.
I can imagine.
Cleaning up a messy abandoned title application is a lot harder than just letting us do it from the beginning.
Now you said that abandoned is more difficult than a mechanic's lien. Does a mechanic's lien fall into that same category?
Kind of. All we have to have for that is proof of the repairs and that they have not paid, obviously. And then the state, what happens is you apply for it just like you would any type of lien. So if you go in and you're selling a car and you're going to be the lien holder and you put yourself, in as the lien holder, a mechanic's lien, you'll go in to the same state system and you have to put in there why. It's just a bit of an application process. It's not like having to send, certified letters to lien holders and, things. It's not as extensive.
You still have to do the auction process?
You do not. No, because the car may have been picked up, or it may have, there's just so many scenarios. We don't have time to go through them all. I'm so sorry. But it's a little bit different because it's a lot of times with the mechanic's lien, different from abandoned, is you do have an agreement with the customer. Abandoned, sometimes you don't know who that car, people will abandon cars on the interstate and take the tags off.
Right.
But with a mechanic's lien, somebody came in, somebody said, this is going on with my car and I need for you to fix it. So that's the difference in the two.
Right.
It's still quite a process on both of them.
Now, how long does the mechanic's lien usually take in Alabama?
It would vary from 5 to 7 days to it could take a month. And that all depends on how quickly we get the state the information that they require, which is proof that the vehicle is owed, that the mechanic is owed, and then we have to prove that the mechanic did the work that was agreed upon. Then we have to prove that the mechanic is licensed to be operating. So things like that. So it really depends. Every case is different.
I've had some pretty good experience working with mechanics actually buying the vehicles off of their back lot. That's been one of my primary resources actually for vehicles. And when it gets to be times like this, a lot of people think, Randy, why are you telling everybody all your secrets? But I find that there's enough success to go around. It's beneficial to teach what you know, and then it comes back. You get smarter, I think.
Right, and that's been my whole platform about dealers helping dealers. There's enough business for all of us.
Hmm.
If we get together and we help each other, we're all going to be more successful, including me.
Hmm.
So I agree with you.
Yeah, I find the more I reach out to other dealers, Serena, the 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 more money I make. Because they'll reach
Mhm.
back and help me.
Yeah, I understand.
And I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it to if I, tit for tat or anything like that. I just think it's kind of the way my mom taught me to do business. So I think as I get older, I do more business like my mom would be proud of. But I guess that's a good thing. Maybe I figure somebody's watching me now.
Yeah, but if you'll stick with that, you will be successful, because I believe as a team and as a state, as a group, the dealers, if we will stick together and help each other, it'll just be better overall. If we're working against each other,
Hmm.
it's just going to make the whole process differently. We already fight a stigma from the public
Yeah.
that we are these, shysters out to take advantage of everybody who walks through the door.
Hmm.
So if we're against each other, that's just going to, pile on top of their beliefs that we are not good people.
Right.
And I think if we join together and do what we need to do as a team and as a group, that, like you said, we'll just all be more successful.
I think so too. Now, one of the things I think when we talked, you said you also do some work with people in other states besides Alabama.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I know there's some big changes coming down the pike in Alabama. I know the association has notified us that there's I think only one class in person that we can take this year to learn about all this stuff.
That's correct.
What kind of changes do you know about, and how do they affect people in other states too, or is it just Alabama that's going to be facing these things?
Well, there's always changes going on in other states as well. Now, the big changes that we are speaking of are Alabama changes, because we are obviously in Alabama.
Hmm.
The odometer law that changed was a federal law, so
Hmm.
everybody's aware of that, by now.
Hmm.
And then occasionally there will be a federal law that goes into effect that affects every state.
Hmm.
But we do frequently, as a matter of fact, a lot of our bonds actually come from other dealers in other states.
Hmm.
We also are able to help dealers get clean titles from other states. Not that they'll send us an original that may have documents attached, death certificates, affidavits of correction. And there are some states who will not take titles with anything attached.
Hmm.
So we will help them to get a clean title that has nothing attached, because their state won't take it otherwise.
Hmm.
And we do a lot of bonds for dealers in other states. But our state, you ready to hear the changes for what's coming up? I mean, it's not big to us, but it has seemed to be a big deal with the dealers. But they are doing the one in-person class. However, please understand that the state association is still going to be doing classes 5 times a month at different auctions. Different, not your own auction days. I'm talking about using the auction as the meeting facility.
Right.
5 times a month, and you're able, and I'm there, so you're able to get kind of the same, training title wise and compliance wise.
So you're doing
as you would. Yes, but we do not. I'm not operating under the alts. That they don't allow us to do title training, but I'm there, and I'm there to help. I do explain what Signature 1 does, and most of the time, instead of people wanting me to teach them to do it, they're just like, here, take it.
Yeah,
I don't want to do this.
I can see that.
But we are available. So yes, they're only doing the one class. Now, licensing wise, There is going to be a video class that everyone has to take in order to get your dealer's license. Which, by the way, I'll back up and say we also have a dealer licensing portion of our services. We do help you with the paperwork, help you understand what you need.
All right.
We will submit it to the state for you.
Right. Now that is just for Alabama.
That is just for Alabama. For now, we are going to expand into other states, but right now, with all the changes coming, we're just not, we need to get all this set.
Sure.
What they're going to start doing, in the past, what has happened is you've sold a car, you got all your paperwork, you stick it in an envelope and you send it to Montgomery, and then you wait. Now, everyone is able to get your paperwork, stamp it, surrendered, upload it, scan it, and upload it into the system, attach it to the title application it belongs to, and submit it to the state. Then you have to hold those original documents for 1 year and hold on to your digital copies for 4 years. But we also do that. We offer a service that's very inexpensive. It's $10 per title to just have us scan and upload everything for you and store it. So if anyone is audited, we're the ones that get audited and not you.
I tell you, I just had a hard drive crash on one of my computers, and I had 2 books that I've written, and I'm a songwriter. I think I had about 50 songs, the lyrics on there. It is just devastating that you.
Please tell me you had that in some kind of cloud or something.
I found one cloud from 2014, and so far we have not recovered that, and it's probably going to cost me a couple $1,000s to recover it off of that hard disk. It's so $10 sounds like a pretty cheap solution. And I know
for 25 we'll do the whole thing.
I know.
You can send us the title and we'll sign off on it. You don't have, if it's full or if it's already messed up, it doesn't matter. You just send it to us just like it is and don't worry about it.
That's what I saw on your services page on your website. You do a great job of explaining exactly what you get when you're a customer. That's brilliant stuff. Now, who is an ideal customer for Signature One?
That's a hard question to answer, but I will say it's people who are dealers who they have a lot of credit unions as lien holders. Maybe someone who does not use e-contracting. E-contracting people can get funded without the lien being perfected. But some dealers do not get funded until that title is issued with the lien holder as listed as the lien holder. The titles that we are processing and uploading are issuing the same day.
Wow.
So that's a big benefit.
Sure.
So we get if something comes in today, it gets done today. If it means I have to call the entire team in to get work done, it gets done that same day. If we're there all night, it still gets done within 24 hours, and it gets uploaded to the system. That's just the commitment we made when we started, that we were going to have 24-hour service. And that's why one of the reasons we're called Signature One Titles on Demand. The other one is that some people just do not want to fool with the system at all.
Right.
So you can actually sell a car, do your bill of sale, send us a picture of that bill of sale, and in less than 10 minutes, we will have a title application emailed to you.
Amen.
For the customer. So you don't even have to log in.
Yes, that's the way I prefer. And that's exciting stuff. So it doesn't matter to you as long as you deal with licensed dealers, and it doesn't matter if how small or how big they are. You can deal with everybody.
Oh, absolutely. It does not matter. The bigger the dealer, the better the pricing package. If you have 100 or more titles per month, we can actually do what's called a flat rate package, to where you're not paying per title. You're paying one flat rate, and we handle everything. We have customers who do not even have title clerks on their staff. We are completely outsourced, and they tell us, I've been told that we are cheaper than a title clerk, but twice as good. So I don't know, I can't say that for all title clerks, but that's what we've,
Well,
but now I will tell you that our biggest benefit, the titles are great, the bonds are great, the title applications, managing alts for dealers, all of that is wonderful and great, but that actually has not been the number one benefit people have told me that they've liked the most. What they have said is the not having to call the state or to sit on hold or to try to get,
sure,
that is what has been the most beneficial, because when you're our customer, you don't do those things.
Right.
You call us. So we handle everything for you.
That's the thing. I guess I've realized more and more as I've gotten older that my time is worth something, and
yes.
I'm not good at waiting on the phone, for one thing. So that's a great thing. Now, Serena, how can people learn more about your company and what you do?
Okay, well, obviously you can go to our website that you've been talking about. It's www.s1titles.com, and S1 is just short for signature one, but we affectionately call it S1 all the time. So it's s1titles.com. You can call us at 205-552-8432.
Okay.
That is our office phone. However, I will say that phone is forwarded to my cell phone because I pick up every call. We have 5 staff members, but I'm a stickler about not missing anybody. And if I miss a call, somebody returns it within just a few minutes, because I've been where these dealers are. I know that things, you got to handle things when you have a few minutes to handle it. So because I've been where they are, it kind of heightens my desire to make sure that we're helping them as quickly as we can, and get things done
That's fantastic.
as we can.
Hey, let me ask you for permission. Would it be all right for us to add your website and contact information to our resource?
Absolutely. Please do. Please do.
This is such a great, you're such a great resource for especially folks here in Alabama. And I think a lot of the information you've given is universal for our listeners all over the country.
It is.
We've actually, I don't know who these guys are, but we've got 40 other countries who are listening to the Flippin' Genius.
Okay.
I hope they all speak English, because otherwise they probably won't understand me. But I do know how to say hola and guten tag.
Well, then you're better than I am then.
But we'll definitely add this, so you can find Serena's contact information for her operations at Signature One Titles on the flippinggenius.com site. Just go to the resources page and you'll find it under businesses, or business and finance, I think is where we'll put that. This has been so informative, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time, Serena.
Thank you for having me.
Anything else you want to add to?
Well, you can contact us if you want to become a part of the state association and you're not. There's so many benefits to that, but we can help you get that set up. And we have a dealer conference coming up. The one class you were talking about, excuse me, with the Department of Revenue is happening at the convention this year. Very important time that all the dealers come together and we have a great time, and we share resources and learn how to maximize a business. Vendors are there if you're thinking about getting into service contracts and broadening your financial lending resources. There's lenders there ready to talk to you and get you started. We also have some great things on the horizon. ACV auctions are increasing their presence in the state of Alabama. We much needed that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be there this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a big thing. And those dates are July the 14th through the 17th
Mm-hmm.
this year at Perdido Key. And it's just always a great time. And we didn't get to do it last year because of COVID. So we are chomping at the bit to get together again this year.
Absolutely. So, beautiful place. And if anybody wants to hear more, you can hear Randy Jones talk about that too on episode 61. And Randy was with us in episode 18 and 19 last year, talking more about a lot of the rules that affect everybody in not only in the state of Alabama, but all over the country. Very knowledgeable guy and just a wonderful.
Yes, he's the genius. I mean, I do not. I mean, I can do your titles and you know, all that good stuff, but when it comes to compliance and you know, different things like that, he is your man.
Not to mention, I think he's got 36 hours in every day that he has on his watch.
I honestly have no idea how the man does what he does.
He does.
He also gets up at like 4 a.m. and he rides a bicycle for miles and miles, and I just don't know how he does everything he does. It's
He's
amazing.
An amazing dude, and every time I talk to Randy, he thanks me for doing stuff like, and I do a little part-time work for the association, and you would think that I was a saint or something the way he talks to me, which is pretty.
Yeah. He needs all the help and support he can get because he does, like you said, there are 36 hours in his 24-hour days.
I swear. Well, Serena, speaking about time, I want to respect yours and let you go. I would love to have you back again and talk about your career in the car business, because I think you've got a unique perspective in that, you know, when I go to the auction, you look around and it's about 95% men, and you are a woman in the car business, and you did really well. I would love to hear more, and I know a lot of our listeners would like to hear that too. I want to invite you back, and I'll get back in touch with you, and I'd love to have you come back and those stories.
All right. I've got some great stories, so it'll be fun.
I bet you do. I bet you do. And thank you so much for your time. And
you're very welcome, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for listening. And I want you to consider becoming a Flipping Team member. And when you do, we will share with you a startup kit that is valued at $250 or more. And each month, you'll get our Flipping Team Member Success Pack, which is also designed to help you make more money. Each and every month, you'll get more bonus material and other information because you're a Flipping Team member. Go to flippinggenius.com and click on the Flipping Team Member button to learn more. All right, well, that's our interview with Serena Martin. I'm so appreciative of Serena taking the time to come on Flipping Genius. And as you can tell, Serena knows her stuff, and we are looking forward to working with her and opening some new doors, I think, that we talked about there. If you want to learn more about what Serena does, more about Signature One titles, you can find them on our resources page at flippinggenius.com. That's flippinggenius.com, just one G. And we'll put links there so you can learn more. And of course, there's links to the National Association of Independent Auto Dealers that Serena talked about. She's actually on the board here in Alabama, and you'll learn a lot of great stuff there too. I encourage you to give us a 5-star review, please, if you're on Apple Podcasts. Give us a thumbs up if you're on YouTube, and please subscribe so you don't miss another episode. We've got 71 in the can now as of today, the 25th of May 2021, and we just keep rolling these babies out every Wednesday. Subscribe to us so you see what we've got. Want you to join our Flippers Forum, a car flipping forum. Keep talking about it. Go to Facebook groups, search Flipping Genius, and you'll find all of our groups. The first one you see, usually the one that's in blue, not red, is the Car Flipping Forum. And that's where, as I've talked about, we get together and we share ideas, we share troubles, we share answers, and we'll share some of the stuff we talked about today on there. And if you've got questions about any of this stuff, send me your questions at flippingquestions@gmail.com, or ask them, better yet, ask them on the Flipping Forum so I can answer them for you and for everybody else. Or better yet, somebody else can answer too, because there's a lot of folks out there that are really smart. I'm hoping maybe I can convince Serena to come on and become a member and help us there too. But without further ado, thanks so much for listening. Anything that you do to support the Flipping Genius is greatly appreciated. I'd love for you to become a member. I'd love for you to become a partner. Check out our Flipping Genius member program. You get some great benefits when you become a member, and check out our new coaching program. I know that we can help you make money, and I'm excited to work with folks. If you want more information about that, just email me or contact me, and we can talk more about it and how we can work with you and what fits your programs. Hey, let's work together. Let's make some money. Let's all become flipping geniuses.